Welcome back, guys. Today we'll explore a few places in Kyushu's Saga Prefecture. Right now we're still in Fukuoka City. I'm on my way to a car rental shop to get us a ride for the rest of our Kyushu journey. So, I mentioned in the last episode how Saga is Japan's quietest prefecture. If it's not, it's definitely one of the quietest prefectures in this country. And why is that? If we take a look at where Saga is on the map, it's located between the more popular prefectures of Fukuoka that we explored in the last episode, and Nagasaki, which we'll explore in the next 2 episodes. Compared to Saga, both Fukuoka and Nagasaki prefectures are homes to pretty substantial cities, and with them, larger populations, bigger airports, more companies with more job opportunities, and they also have more well-known tourist destinations than those found in Saga. Saga Prefecture is so quiet that a famous comedian from here named Hanawa created a song about it. But don't let any of that steer you away from visiting Saga. There are some pretty cool things to see here too. The first place we'll explore today has a history that goes back over 2,000 years. Yoshinogari is a historical park and archaeological site with over 3,000 tombs dating back to Japan's Yayoi period, which in Japan is a period generally thought to be from 300 BC to 300 AD. But in Kyushu, it's believed to start even earlier, back in 500 BC, due to this area having even earlier contact than the rest of Japan had with the Asian continent. Yoshinogari transformed over the years from a small village to eventually becoming one of the largest moat-enclosed settlements in Japan. Ahead of us now is a stockade fence that circles around one of the main settlement areas here. This reconstructed village is in the center of the park, and is called Minami Naikaku. This is thought to be where the Yayoi period kings governed from. Let's get a closer look and see what's inside. Yoshinogari Historical Park stretches out over an area that's nearly 100 acres, making it the biggest Yayoi period site found so far in Japan. As you've probably guessed, these buildings you see today don't actually date back to 500 BC. They were all fairly recently built, but the way they've been reconstructed is as close to the original structures as possible based on excavation surveys. It's difficult to say for sure which area of Japan held the most power back during the Yayoi period, but it's speculated that Yoshinogari was the seat of one of the earliest forms of government found in Japan. These homes you see here are pit dwellings, and displayed inside them are tools, pottery, clothing, and other objects that were used back in the day. There are mannequins inside the dwellings to help give us a better idea of what life was like for the people living here during the Yayoi period. Let's go inside this home here, which was apparently the king's house. Speaking of which, here's the king now, having a chat by the looks of it. He has a pretty good collection of pottery. Over here are some clothes, some fancier looking pottery, and a pretty simple bed by today's standards, but I bet this thing was top-notch 2,000 years ago. Back then, people must have really been flexible.
I made it!
Farther north in the park is another settlement called Kita Naikaku. Inside this enclosed area are several buildings and a large shrine where ancient ceremonies took place. No casual chats happening inside here. Looks a bit more serious than whatever the king was up to earlier. After another short walk, the last area of the park we'll check out is called Kita Funkyubo, or Northern Burial Mound. Normally, you can't enter Japan's burial mounds, But walking around the backside of this one, looks like today is our lucky day. They even had automatic doors and reinforced concrete back then. Wow, talk about an advanced society. Inside here are remnants of the original burial pots that were found. Kings and other important people were buried inside this burial mound. How do we know that? Well, when this area was excavated, researchers found 14 burial jars here, and inside these jars were bronze swords and glass beads that only those of the highest ranks would have had. Outside, there are a lot more burial jars. These are just a small number of the total amount found here so far. As you might guess, these are all recreations of the originals that were here. So there you go, Yoshinogari Historical Park. It's a pretty neat place to check out if you're at all interested in ancient Japanese culture. It's not every day that you get to walk through such an old village and get a taste of what life was like in Japan over 2,000 years ago. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I think it's time for lunch. And where better to have it than a couple hours down the road in Saga City. There's this historical street here that I wanted to walk down and hopefully find some lunch at. It doesn't really seem to match such a historical area, but Sicilian rice is the recommended food to have here. Did I have some? Well, I tried, but I was a bit too late for lunchtime at the restaurant that serves it, so I had to settle for some curry rice at another place instead. It did the trick, but what really hit the spot was this black Mombron ice cream bar I ended up getting afterwards for dessert. This is a local treat here in Saga. A vanilla ice cream bar covered in chocolate and a cookie crumble. Yep, it's as delicious as it sounds. I have no choice but to give this a solid 10 out of 10. It's time for our final stop today. Around an hour west of Saga City is a place called Arita. This town is best known for its ceramics. It's so well known, in fact, that it's said Arita is the birthplace of porcelain pottery in Japan. The ceramics produced in this town are famous not only inside Japan, but throughout the world. In the mid-1600s, the Dutch East India Company exported large quantities of Arita's porcelain goods to buyers all over the globe. For almost 400 years, people have enjoyed the vivid colors and fine details of this pottery, along with its durability. A pretty unusual place where you see quite a bit of porcelain used in this town is at the local shrine. As we get closer to the top, the shrine gate, which is usually made of wood, stone, or concrete at other shrines, is done in porcelain. I've never seen anything like this before. Talk about some beautiful work. This shrine is definitely one of the prettier ones I've seen in Japan. If you have any interest at all in porcelain pottery, Arita's a must-visit. I unfortunately arrived right around closing time for most of the shops here, but if you can manage to arrive earlier in the day, you'll get to have the full experience. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's tour of Saga Prefecture. I personally had a great time exploring it since Saga's not such a well-known area. It's nice to see lesser-known places sometimes and get a taste of Japan that a lot of people don't usually get to experience. Our next and final prefecture is Nagasaki, and I was lucky enough to see quite a bit of that prefecture during my stay, so I've decided to split up my time there into 2 parts to show you guys. In the next episode, we'll see a beautiful church, Miura Anjin's actual grave, a famous statue, a historical trading post, and eat one of Japan's most well-known burgers. Until then, take care.